The silence was too loud. Amara Okafor felt it the moment she stepped into the house that humid evening in Abuja. Normally, the duplex carried life, pots clanging in the kitchen, the television murmuring, or her husband's laughter drifting from upstairs. But today, the house was still, as though holding its breath. Her heels tapped against the marble floor, each sound echoing like a warning in the emptiness. Her fingers tightened around her handbag. Something was different. Then, she saw her. A woman stood in the parlor, mopping the glossy tiles. But she was not the kind of house help Amara expected. The stranger had a figure that demanded attention, hips that swayed even in simple motion, a curvy backside that seemed sculpted to tempt, and a chest that strained against her plain blouse. Her smooth chocolate brown skin glistened under the dim light, and her face, framed by tightly coiled braids, carried a quiet, unsettling beauty. The mop squeaked as the woman paused and looked up, smiling politely. "Good evening, ma." Amara blinked in confusion, her stomach tightening. "Who are you?" "I'm the new house help," the woman said softly, lowering her gaze as though aware of the heavy stare weighing down on her. Amara's mind spun. Her husband Obinna had promised to find someone to help around the house, but she never imagined he would bring a woman this stunning into their home. She stood frozen, caught between shock and an unspoken wave of jealousy. That night, when the dishes were cleared and the house finally quiet, Amara confronted her husband in their bedroom. "Obinna," she said, her voice sharp, "why would you bring someone like that into this house? Do you know how men look at her? Do you think I'll feel comfortable leaving the two of you here alone all day?" Obinna barely looked up from his laptop. His eyes reflected the glow of the screen as he smirked faintly. "Amara, you worry too much. She's just here to cook and clean, nothing more. Trust me." Trust. The word sat heavy in her chest. But trust was not so simple. As days turned into weeks, Amara found herself haunted by the maid's presence. Ngondi, that was her name, moved with quiet dedication. She swept the house in silence, her hips swaying in a rhythm Amara could not ignore. She hummed softly in the kitchen, the aroma of stew and jollof rice filling the air, while Obinna occasionally leaned on the counter to chat with her. Sometimes, Amara would return from the bank to find Ngozi folding Obinna's clothes, their laughter spilling into the room like a private secret. It gnawed at her. Every smile between them, every glance, every shared laugh, it all felt like betrayal blooming in plain sight. Her nights grew restless. She would lie beside her husband, staring at the ceiling fan as it whirred above, wondering what unfolded in the house while she was away. She told herself she was imagining things, but the unease never left. And then came the night that changed everything. Amara returned later than usual, the sky already painted dark, the air thick with moisture that clung to her skin. When she stepped inside, she noticed it again. The silence. No sounds of cooking, no footsteps, no voice. The emptiness felt wrong. Amara placed her handbag on the chair and called out, "Obinna!" Her voice echoed, unanswered. Her heels clicked against the staircase as she climbed, every step sending her pulse racing. When she reached the landing, she heard it. A soft cry, a woman's cry. Her breath caught. It came from their bedroom. Panic surged to her veins. Images of betrayal crashed into her mind. Her chest tightened as anger and dread battled inside. She pushed the bedroom door open and the sight almost shattered her. Ngozi sat on the edge of the bed, tears streaming down her cheeks. Obinna was beside her, holding her wrist gently, their closeness suffocating in its intimacy. The sight struck her like a blade. Every fear she had buried roared to life. Her voice trembled with rage. "You!" She pointed a shaking finger at Ngozi. "Husband snatcher!" Obinna's head shot up, eyes wide. "Amara, It's not what you think. Don't, she shouted, her voice breaking. After everything I have sacrificed for this family, this is how you repay me? Ngozi opened her mouth to speak, but Amara cut her off. Shut your mouth, you shameless woman. You came into my home to destroy my marriage? Her fury carried her to the maid's room. She dragged Ngozi's bag into the hallway, flinging it on the floor. Take your things and get out of my house. Ngozi sobbed quietly as she picked up her bag. But what broke Amara's heart more was Obina's reaction. He didn't stop her. He didn't defend his wife. Instead, he lifted the bag himself and walked the maid to the car. Moments later, the engine started and he drove off with the very woman Amara had thrown out. Rage consumed her. She sat in the living room, her chest heaving, her thoughts a storm of betrayal and confusion. To her, the truth was undeniable. Her husband had chosen Ngozi over her. Hours later, Obina returned, his face drawn, his eyes shadowed. Amara's tears had dried into lines of salt on her cheeks. She spoke coldly. Don't bother explaining. But Obina raised his hand. You must listen, Amara. You saw something, but you didn't see the truth. He sighed deeply. She slipped while mopping, fell on her wrist. I was checking if it was broken, that's all. You walked in at the worst moment. Amara's throat tightened. Doubt clawed at her anger. Could it be true? Shame flickered inside her. Had she accused him unfairly? Still, her heart was unsettled. Something about Ngozi lingered in her mind like a shadow refusing to leave.
2 nights later, Amara got her answer. Obina was in the bathroom, the sound of running water filling the house when his phone rang on the bed. Amara picked it up instinctively. The caller ID flashed one name, Ngozi. She hesitated, then answered. A trembling voice spilled through the line. Daddy Junior is not feeling fine. Please come so we can take him to the hospital. The words slammed into Amara like thunder. Her hands went weak and the phone slipped from her grip, clattering onto the floor. Her breath caught in her throat. Daddy Junior? Her world tilted. And in that moment, Amara knew this was only the beginning of a nightmare she never saw coming. Sleep abandoned Amara that night. She lay in the dark beside Obina, staring at the ceiling, her body trembling with the memory of the phone call. Daddy Junior. The words rang in her ears again and again, stabbing her chest with every echo. Obina slept peacefully, his breathing steady, as if nothing was amiss. But Amara's mind was a battlefield. Could it be true? Could the maid's son actually belong to her husband? By morning, she could no longer bear the weight of silence. As soon as Obina left for a meeting downtown, Amara waited for Ngozi near the gate of their estate. The young woman appeared, her son clutching her hand, a bag of medicine dangling from the other. Ngozi, Amara called, her voice shaking. The maid stopped, her body stiffening at the sound of her former employer's voice. Her son, a small boy of 5 with wide eyes, hid behind her wrapper. Amara walked closer, her throat dry. She demanded, "Tell me the truth. That night on the phone, you called Obina Daddy Junior. What does that mean?" Ngozi's eyes darted away, then returned with a strange calm. She knelt slightly so her son wouldn't hear. "It means exactly what you think, madam. Obina is Junior's father." Amara's knees weakened. The world spun. She shook her head violently. No, you are lying. You are trying to destroy my home." But Ngozi's gaze was steady, unflinching. She said, "We were lovers back in university, before he traveled to the UK. He left me, but not before I discovered I was pregnant. I raised Junior alone. When Obina came back, we reconnected. I didn't even know he was married until I started working in your house." Amara staggered backward, her breath trapped in her chest. A part of her wanted to scream, to claw at the lie, but another part saw the boy's resemblance. His nose, the curve of his lips, features that mirrored Obina's own. Tears blurred her vision. "No, no," she whispered. The next day, Amara's nightmares sharpened into reality. She was preparing to leave for work when the sound of a car horn echoed through the compound. When she stepped outside, her blood ran cold. Ngozi stood by the gate with 2 large bags and little Junior clinging to her side. "What are you doing here?" Amara snapped. Ngozi smiled faintly, a smile that held no shame. "We are here to stay. This is Junior's father's house." Hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the story. Before Amara could respond, Obina appeared from the living room, his shirt half-buttoned. He looked from Ngozi to Amara, torn between anger and guilt. "Amara, please, it's complicated." "Complicated?" Amara's voice cracked like a whip. "You let her walk into our home with her child, and you call it complicated?" Obina rubbed his forehead, silent. His silence was worse than an answer. It was betrayal wrapped in cowardice. Ngozi and her son moved into the guest room that day, but it didn't take long for the atmosphere of the house to rot. At first, Ngozi played the role of a quiet mother, tending to Junior and offering polite greetings. But soon, her mask slipped. She walked with an arrogance that filled every corridor, her curvy hips swaying deliberately, as though to remind Amara of the power she held. She left dishes unwashed, her son's toys scattered in the parlor. When Amara complained, Ngozi's response was laced with venom. "Madame, you don't understand what it means to care for a child. Maybe if you had one of your own, you would." The words stabbed deeper than a knife. Amara had tried for years to conceive, enduring whispers from in-laws and sympathetic stares from friends. Ngozi's insult reopened wounds she had fought to keep hidden. Obina tried to console her, but he too began to change. He spent more time with Junior, teaching him to ride a bicycle in the compound, laughing with him in the evenings. Amara watched from the window, her chest tight, as though the boy had stolen her husband's heart completely. Days turned into weeks, and Amara felt herself shrinking inside her own home. The walls that once brought comfort now pressed down like a prison. Her husband's affection grew colder, his patience shorter. Arguments sparked over trivial things, meals, electricity bills, misplaced keys, and always Ngozi lingered in the background, her eyes shining with quiet triumph. Before we continue, hit subscribe button if you have not subscribed before. One night, Amara confronted Obina in their bedroom. "Obina, you're losing me," she said, her voice breaking. "Can't you see what she's doing? She's destroying our marriage." Obina slammed his laptop shut, his face hard. "Amara, I can't throw her and Junior out. He is my blood. What do you expect me to do? Pretend he doesn't exist?" The final word echoed like a death knell. Blood. That single word shattered Amara. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered into the silence, "What about me, Obina? Do you even matter to me anymore?" Obina didn't answer. He turned away, leaving her sobbing quietly into the silence. The house had become a battlefield, and Amara was losing ground every day. But fate had one more storm prepared. It happened on a rainy afternoon. Ngozi burst into the living room, her wrapper soaked, her face pale with panic. "Junior," she cried, "he is burning with fever. We must take him to the hospital now." Obinna grabbed his car keys without hesitation, scooping the boy into his arms as Amara trailed behind in dread. At the hospital, the doctors rushed Junior into emergency care. Hours crawled by like years until a doctor emerged, his face grave. "The boy needs a blood transfusion immediately," he said. "We must act fast." Obinna stepped forward without hesitation. "Take my blood. I am his father." The doctor shook his head slowly. "I'm sorry, sir. Your blood type does not match. It has been rejected." The words fell like thunder. Obinna froze, disbelief carved into his features. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "That's my son." The doctor's expression was firm. "Medically, he cannot be your child." Obinna staggered back, his heart slamming in his chest. Amara watched him, her own world tilting as shock rippled through the room. For years, she had feared betrayal. Now, the truth had arrived, and it was nothing like she expected. The hospital smelt of disinfectant and despair. White walls closed in on Amara as she sat by the Ngozi's son's bedside, her fingers trembling as she held the boy's frail hand. His breathing was shallow, each gasp like a fight against unseen chains. Ngozi paced the room like a wild animal, her wrapper loose, her eyes swollen from crying. "Doctor, please, please save my child," she wailed whenever the door cracked open. But the doctors only gave vague assurances. Obinna sat on a plastic chair in the corner, his head bowed into his palms. He looked broken, yet her heart had no pity left for him. The betrayal still burned in her chest, a wound too raw to forgive. Amara froze. Her eyes drifted to Obinna. His face was pale, his body rigid. And then the doctor added softly, "We ran quick tests to see if the boy's blood matched the father's type for transfusion. It didn't. Whoever the father was, it is not this man." The words hit like thunder. Amara staggered, gripping the edge of the wall. Not Obinna. The boy wasn't his? Her world tilted. All the nights of crying, the insults, the shame, the endless ache in her chest, were they for nothing? Ngozi lifted her head, her eyes wild and red. "No, it's a lie. He is his son. He must be." She clawed at the doctor's coat like a drowning woman. But the doctor shook his head. "The tests don't lie. You may have deceived yourself or others." Obinna rose slowly from his chair, his gaze locked on Ngozi, his jaw tightening like steel. "You ruined my home. You destroyed the woman I love, and all for a lie?" His voice broke into a roar. "Get out of our lives." Ngozi crumbled to the floor, sobbing, begging, but no one moved to comfort her. Not the nurses, not the doctors, not Amara. By dawn, Ngozi had been escorted out of the hospital. She vanished like smoke in the wind, leaving nothing behind but the echo of her cries. Obinna found Amara outside the hospital gate, standing alone beneath the pale sky. She did not turn when he called her name. She only stared at the rising sun, her arms folded tightly against her chest, as if to keep herself from shattering. "Amara," his voice was hoarse, desperate. "I was blind. I let suspicion eat us alive. I hurt you, and I betrayed the vows we made. Please, give me one more chance." Amara closed her eyes. She remembered the girl she once was,
the young bride who had believed in forever, who had trusted Obinna with every piece of her heart. That girl was gone now. In her place stood a woman forged in fire and betrayal. She turned to him at last, her face unreadable. "You don't deserve me, Obinna. Not anymore." Her words cut sharper than a blade. She walked away slowly, each step heavy, final. Obinna sank to his knees on the pavement, his sobs echoing into the morning air. For the first time, he tasted the full weight of loss, the kind that could not be repaired with apologies or tears. And Amara, she did not look back. For in that moment, she understood her own strength. She was no longer the woman who lived in the shadows of jealousy and deceit. She had risen from the ashes of betrayal, scarred but unbroken. "Tell me where you're watching from,"